So before we install any new electronics, you're going to want to do any other prep to the pack that you're thinking about doing. If you're going to paint it, I would tear the pack completely apart at this point and prep it for paint, which is what I'm going to do with this particular shell, and I'll show you a little bit about that. You can also remove the original lens covers. I'm going to be replacing the lenses in this particular pack with red and blue acrylic lenses for the cyclotron and power cells. So I'm going to go ahead and take these ones out. This particular version of the Spirit pack, everything is screwed in. I would not worry too much about keeping the screws for this, depending on what you're doing for pack lenses. I'm going to hang on to them just in case. And then just pop that out. Now the one in the power cell has a single screw in it. I think some earlier models were glued in place. And maybe some hot glue from the LED that's holding it in, but that's not too bad. So now you've got this kind of stripped down. One thing I would recommend you do, I can get that out of an angle you can see. Right here is where the LED was mounted. It's got a glob of hot glue and some mounting posts. You want to go ahead and clean that out, get the glue out of there, probably trim off those posts with a Dremel or some side snips or something like that if you're putting a new lens in. So that covers that part of the tear down. So like I said, since I'm doing a full build on this, I'm going to continue to tear it down, so I'll just document it. You're going to need to remove the screw that holds the loom in for the wand so that you can remove the entire piece of loom with the wire. There's another screw here that's acting as a strain relief for the wand electronics. And then this is on a post, so I'm going to just pop that off, pull that out. And set your wand aside. So the next things that I know that I want to do, I'm going to remove the straps because we're going to be installing a motherboard and a pack frame. So once again, more small screws. Just remove these. And there is a metal post threaded through the strap, so you need to lift that up. Pry it loose with the screwdriver, pull that post out, and the strap comes loose. I'm going to do the same over on this side. And up top, one of these was already missing. In fact, on this particular pack, UPS was not kind to it. And then there's one in this top corner. There's two screws holding that metal rod in place. And now the pack straps are out. So if we take a look at what's left, the ribbon cable we're going to get rid of because we're going to upgrade that ribbon cable. I'm going to probably mask off the hoses and fittings. We're going to remove this piece of loom here. We're going to take a look at removing this. The shell itself is actually two pieces if you remove these metal mounting brackets. I may remove this and disassemble this to paint. You can see the clipboard was actually broken off of this too. We'll get that fixed. I think I'll just put a new screw in it. We're going to remove the bellows. This particular pack seems to be a new design that I have not seen before for the ion arm. It might be molded separately. I'll have to take a closer look and see if that comes apart. So we will go ahead and remove the screw that holds this piece of loom in. Pull that out. Comes apart quite easily. The ribbon cable is glued in. There it goes. And it should look like they've changed the design even a little more. This fitting on this hose actually is screwed in place, so I can remove that. And they've changed this mount for the ribbon cable even from the other packs I have. I'm really amazed how many changes they keep making to the tooling and the assembly of these Spirit packs. This one is probably a newer one. It does come apart a little bit nicer than the older ones do, which is pretty cool. So we'll have to clean some glue off. We can take the bellows off. You can see it does not take very long to strip one of these packs down to get it ready. There's the bellows. Now it's interesting. This piece here is actually molded onto the cyclotron, it looks like. I have not disassembled one of these before. There are some screws. I think they're just there to clamp that hose in. So, should be able to take that apart pretty easily. That comes apart. Figure out what we're going to do with that. I may just mask that off. I'm not sure if I'm going to upgrade this yet. So these hoses all appear to be glued in place. The booster tube does come off too. I may go ahead and take that off. I think it'll be easier to paint with that separated. Okay, so there are some more fittings in here. It's like I may need to get creative with a screwdriver to get some of these other parts out. There are some more screws in there for taking off the PPD. So maybe we'll take that apart too. And then I think I will just separate out this shell. It'll be easier to give it a light sanding as I prep for paint. So we'll consider that just about done. Lever. So now these should slide free. Yes, they do. So my older pack definitely does not have that capability. Believe it or not, that ion arm should come off of there too. Looks like there are some screws on the bottom of the ion arm. Disassemble that, which should give me access to remove the rest of those hoses. There's also a screw for that green line down in here. And there's that one. There's the screw. So we'll get the ion arm disassembled. I think I need to actually remove these screws. This may be functional. Yes, they are. Now we can open up the ion arm, and interesting that that is not screwed together. And you can see in here, the hose end is just kind of tucked in. So I should be able to, looks like it might be glued, but I should be able to pull that free. I'm not afraid to rip the hose. Here comes that one. And that one. Now, that did rip the hose, but it's far enough inside there we can just add a little dab of glue and we're ready to reattach that. So that piece of the ion arm is completely separate from the rest of this. Looks like that's about the extent of the disassembling that we can do. This piece of loom appears to be glued on. Yeah. So now it's not glued on anymore. And I believe that this piece of the top of this HGA just does come off. There's a screw there. I don't think I'm going to bother to remove it because I don't think there's any need to. So we're going to wrap this video up. You can see what's left. I am going to go ahead and remove all the labels and prep this for paint. I'm going to just give it all a light sanding with probably some 320 grit sandpaper just to scuff it a little bit. Prime and paint. So I'll do some video clips to kind of show the process of how I paint these, using a few different types of paint to give it some texture, and then cover a little bit of weathering before we do reassembly and installation of the electronics.